So the title of this broadcast says, "Thank you to my haters, how confident women grow through giving credit to critics." I know. You are like, Mo, what are you talking about, girl? We don't thank the haters unless we Cardi B. We don't give credit to the critics. But what if you did? What if you could hold space for the critics? And so here's the thing. I'm having this conversation. This thought kind of dropped into my head about a week ago. I was listening to something while I was doing something else, and the four words just dropped into my head: credit to the critic. And so I did what I always do when I get an idea, even if I don't know what that idea is going to be yet, I will pull out my phone, or if my notebook is handy, write it down in my notebook, or I pull out my phone and I just write it in my notes app. And that's what I did. Didn't yet know what this thing was going to turn into. And then a few days later, uh, Beyonce interrupted everybody's internet by dropping the official notice that Act Two, Renaissance Act Two was coming out, Cowboy Carter. And in the post, in her Instagram post, she talked a little bit about how the album was inspired by an experience that she had when she didn't feel welcomed. And then the next day, I read an article about philanthropist and Amazon co founder Mackenzie Scott giving away some $640 million to 361 nonprofit organizations, giving these nonprofits between $1 and $2 million each. And the thing is, what I realized is both of these women, the moves, the announcements that were being made were in response to critics. It was in response to criticism. So then I started thinking about how, as women especially, a lot of us have this running narrative in our minds. The voice that we would never admit, the things that we would never acknowledge or tell anybody, we say to ourselves. But that voice of that inner critic is constantly saying, "Who do you think you are? You think you better than everybody. You think you this, you think you that." That voice, whose job it is to argue with you. That voice, whose job it is to demean you. That voice, whose job it is to judge you. That inner critic is constantly on loop in a lot of our minds, right? And what I recognized is, for a lot of us, that voice, the inner critic's voice, was planted in us from an outside critic. The inner critic's voice was something that we mirrored, we took on after somebody else criticized us. And so, if that's the case, then we have a choice what we do. We have a choice how we respond when the critic shows up.
Hey, hey, welcome to Confident Women Glow. I'm Mo James, your confidence coach and guide on this journey of self-discovery, self-trust, and self-expression. I believe confidence is more than a mindset. It is a practice. It's about showing up boldly, even when life feels messy, and owning your journey every step of the way. So whether you are in your car, at your desk, or just taking a breath between responsibilities, thank you for letting me speak into your day. Let's get into the episode. Hey, quick pause to tell you about something that I created just for you. If you've ever needed a judgment-free space to process your thoughts, get grounded, or reconnect with your power, I want you to meet Camille, your AI confidence coach. Camille was built by me to support you any time of day with journal prompts, reflection questions, mindset coaching, and encouragement rooted in the same compassion and clarity that you hear right here on this podcast. Whether you're working through something heavy or you just need a gentle push to stay on track, Camille is here to remind you that you are not broken. you are becoming. Tap into your truth at your pace with Camille. Visit CamilleAI.net to learn more and start your journey today. Now let's get back to the episode.
Right? I think sometimes when when people pour criticism on us, right? Usually it's surrounding something that we have done, that we've put out into the world, a decision that we have made. We are usually in a space of vulnerability or of just being open. And because there are horrible people in this world, there will be some who, in that space of our vulnerability, will choose to try to cause us harm, will choose to try to make us feel worse. Actually, what it is, they will project the dis-ease that they feel onto us. And because we are in a space of vulnerability already, because we've just created something, we've just created some art, and we have presented it to the world, releasing our control of the thing. Or we have made a decision that we feel a way about, that is very connected to our heart, very connected to something that we are passionate about, and we are telling the world about it. And it's in those moments where we are the most vulnerable that people who are the most uncomfortable and unhappy with themselves will sometimes choose to pour the dis-ease that they feel onto us. And as women, especially, because there is this cultural, societal conditioning to outsource our belief to other people, to allow other people to dictate how we should look, see, and view ourselves, we can sometimes receive that critical voice, those critical opinions, and we take those things and we borrow them. We actually receive them from a place of defeat. And those criticisms become the narrative that we repeat to ourselves. And so the criticism becomes the voice of our inner critic. And that is a dangerous place to be in. And so, what if, when the critic is showing up in your life, that critic could have been somebody in your past, could have been somebody who was responsible for raising you, somebody who was supposed to be careful with you and they mishandled you, somebody who actually meant to do you harm, even somebody who didn't intend to do you harm and yet they caused you harm anyway. What if, when those people are freely spilling out their unrequested opinions about you, your life, your decisions, what if you could recognize the criticism for what it is and flip the script? Because the process to giving the critic credit starts with you seeing it and recognizing the criticism for what it is and choosing in the moment that you're not going to receive it as truth, and instead you're going to flip the script. What if, instead of taking the criticism as a statement about your identity and who you are and your capabilities and everything, what if you could allow the criticism to be the source of a question, a new question that you can answer? What if, in the moment where somebody is telling you all of the things that they don't believe you can do, all of the ways that whatever it is you've said you want is impossible in your life, what if you could allow that moment to be a new question that you can answer in a new way? That's where giving credit to the critic starts. It begins with you saying, now, this criticism is intending to push me down, is intending to make me feel mighty low and mighty bad about myself. But what if this is an opportunity for me to find my courage? What if this criticism, whose intention is to tell me all the things that I can't do, what if this is an opportunity for me to discover me in a new way? What if the critic who is talking about me behind my back is an opportunity for me to learn how to have my own back? What if the critic who is telling me I am doing too much is an opportunity for me to learn how to listen to my inner wisdom and to be more discerning about who I share my vision with? You see? You see how the change in the perspective takes you from being disempowered to empowered? You see how the change in the perspective and just giving room, just allowing room. Because here's the thing, if you believe that life is always trying to teach you something, if you believe that the universe is conspiring to support you in the grand design that you have for your life, then you also have to be willing to consider that even the critic has a role to play in you creating your masterpiece life. And you can get there if you are willing to allow the critic to be a source of a new question that you can answer for yourself. What if you can get to the point where you can say, thank you, critic, for telling me that I wasn't welcome? Because it is in your closing the door in my face allowed me to learn how to accept myself without needing validation. What if you telling me I didn't belong in your community allowed me the freedom to create one that suited not just me, but other people who are exactly like me? What if you thank you for telling me what you thought I couldn't do, because it allowed me to reintroduce me to me and discover all the possibilities that exist in me. Confident women can grow through giving credit to the critics, because you will be so at peace with yourself and you will be so in love with who you are becoming that, baby, you will see, you know what? Little, I mean, I know you meant it for my harm, but it turned out, it worked out for my good. So, in the moment that you are on the other side of that thing, you can give credit to the critic who has spoken doubt and fear and limitation and unworthiness and estrangement and guilt and shame and unbelief. All of those things that the critics in your life try to speak over you and try to speak into you, baby, you will understand that it was never about you. What they were saying was never about you. And instead, you chose to allow it to be the soil from which you get to introduce you to yourself. You get to discover you in new ways. You get to reinforce those boundaries so that you exist in spaces that are loving and are nurturing and are supportive, that don't require external validation, that have room for every bit of your authenticity, that don't shame you or guilt you or make you feel low or bad or unwelcome or whatever. You will call up your courage in ways that you didn't even think was possible. All because the right one tried to push you down. You will show up in your authenticity fully, needing no acceptance, validation from anybody else, because you are so in love with you that anybody else who joins your bandwagon is welcome to the party, because it was already a party when you got there. When you woke up, you were already loved. You were already supported. You were already validated. You were already worthy. That's what it looks like when confident women grow through giving credit to the critic. You recognize the critic was a part of the plan all along. The critic needed to show up so that you could get to the favorite version of you.
Look at you listening all the way through to the end. Thank you. If this episode stirred something in you, take a moment today to check in with yourself and ask, what do I know is true for me right now? And if the podcast has been a supportive voice in your week, I'd love it if you left a rating or a review. It helps more women like you find this space. And remember, when you need a gentle nudge back to yourself, you don't have to figure it all out alone. There are resources that can help, and I hope you'll find them here. Until next time, keep glowing, and remember, the safe bet is always you.